Thank you all for tuning in. Now, I can't promise you the outcome that you're gonna get from watching this, but what I can tell you, if you apply what you're about to learn, this will change your financial future. If you're here, it's probably because you're ready for change. And what you're gonna learn in tonight's training will do just that. So if taking back control of your money isn't enough to keep you glued to this screen for the next 90 minutes, I think it's time to reassess your priorities. Number one, you're gonna learn how to take back control of your money. And you're gonna do that by learning how to be the bank. Number two, you're gonna learn how to build wealth through your own debts and expenses. And you can do that without working harder, without working longer, and without taking on any additional risk. And number three, you're gonna learn how to get all the money back for every single car you will ever buy, drive, and own. That's exactly what you're gonna learn in tonight's training, so get ready, get set, let's go.
Take back control.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday?
What if by changing one thing, just one thing, everything would be better for your family financially? How many of you would make that one change? How many of you want more money? That paradigm shift is the gap between you and the wealthiest families. It's a difference between being a borrower or being a builder. So welcome. Congratulations on being here. High five your neighbor. Many people could have been here today and they chose not to be, but you showed up for yourself, for those you love, and for your community. And that's awesome. So in the next 6 hours, I'm gonna let you in on a little known secret, a little known fact. The wealthiest families and visionaries like the Rockefellers and Walt Disney have been using this strategy called the infinite banking concept for ages to build and preserve their empires. The strategy is simple, it's legal, and it's something that each and every one of you have access to. And it all starts with changing just that one thing. Start loving yourself more. I know that sounds weird, but start paying yourself first. Shockingly, we're giving away a big chunk of our money every time we get paid to the banks, to the government, to Wall Street, to them. And I'm going to show you how to take back control from them. And would it be okay if I shared a little bit about myself and why I'm so passionate about this subject? Is that okay? Imagine this. They are going to give you a job where you work like an extra 30 hours a week. You're going to take on a ton of additional roles, stress, responsibilities, leadership, and bonus, here it is, you make zero extra money and you have no equity in the company. How many of you would want to do that? Nobody. You'd have to be an idiot to do that. And then it gets worse. I left that role to start my own company. And within a year, I find myself in another role helping someone else build their dream, build their coaching platform from during the pandemic from 0 to 4 million. Now I'm working 15 to 18 hours a day, making a third of what I used to make. And how many of you or who in their right mind would do that? Nobody. You have to be crazy. But I did it 2 times. Then I hit rock bottom. I'm in a master, class, a mastermind in Mahwah, New Jersey. And the leaders talk about how awesome life's going to be. What do you want? How much money do you want to have? Who wants to have another retirement or another home? Where do you want to travel to? Who's around you? And while everyone's getting pumped up, I broke down. I started crying and I felt like I was failing my family at that time, my wife, my 2 sons, and myself. And what I realized is I had a lot of rules around money. I don't know if this is familiar to anybody, but I had a lot of scarcity beliefs around money. I didn't know how it worked. I always felt like I didn't understand it. And so when I came back to Orlando, I went to my friend and a mentor who's a fiduciary with 40 wealth management offices, and I asked him for help. And he handed me a book right off his coffee table. He handed it to me and said, "Sip, here you go, read this." And I read it. I read it on a Tuesday. And don't be impressed. It's only 91 pages long and the font's huge. But I read that book and I actually didn't feel better. I actually got super mad. I actually got really angry in that moment. I thought, this can't be true. And so I read the book again on Wednesday. And then I called him up and I cussed him out. And I was like, Rep, what the bleep? Like, what are you doing, man? I've known you for a couple years. We're supposed to be really tight friends. Like, why didn't you tell me about this? And you know what he said? Sip, you weren't ready. And that was the truth. I wasn't ready until I was ready. And once I knew that it was true, this became my mission because I thought every single American would do this. And so by the end of our time together, you're going to know the secret of the wealthy. You're going to know how to do it, how to do what they are doing. You're going to know how the banks take your money and make tons of money from your money. You're actually going to be shocked about how much. You're going to know how you can give yourself a raise and recapture all of the interest, turning your debts into assets, along with truly creating generational guaranteed, who doesn't like that word, legacy, and the resourcefulness, the systems and processes to pass it on. And a few years ago, this is something that wasn't available to myself. But my family, we've applied this. We've succeeded with this. And today I'm going to show you how you can do the same. How many of you would think that would be valuable? And there might be a little voice in the back of your head saying, hey, this is unattainable right now, but I promise you, it's within your grasp. My only request is that you keep an open mind and you understand that if you don't know what I'm talking about, that you just don't know it yet. Everything begins with the way we think and changing that one thing. So let's jump in. So Nelson Nash, to quote him, says, the infinite banking concept is an exercise of imagination, reason, logic, and prophecy. So let's have some fun as long as you're not driving. I'm going to do this a couple times with you. Close your eyes, and I want you to imagine something. We're going to go way back for some of you and even further back for others. Close your eyes. Imagine you're in a room where you're graduating high school and you're surrounded by 100 of your most excited classmates. And I'm up on stage leading you like a mastermind, and I ask a simple question. How many of you are going to be financially successful by retirement age? Well, guess what? You're going to be jumping up and going, woo, me! Call on me, Jason. I'm going to be the next Elon, the next Mark Zuckerberg, maybe the next Warren Buffett. You're so excited in that moment. You're filled with so much joy and hope because you just finished high school and everything's in front of you. Everything is possible. But something happens. It's slow, it's insidious, and it kind of creeps up on almost everyone. And the reality is things change. Our hopes, our dreams, what we thought was possible, they start to fade and they're replaced with another feeling. They're replaced with uncertainty, with fear, with worry, and we stop being so hopeful as if everything's possible when we just try to survive. Because this statistic from the Social Security Administration is shocking. Only 5 out of 100 people are financially secure. That doesn't mean rich. That just means you don't have to go back to work by retirement time. And retirement's made up in my mind anyhow. But my question is how is this possible? How is this possible in the greatest country, in the greatest time in history, that statistic is a reality? It shouldn't be that way. It can't be that way. And together, we can change this. You're already in the 5%, the minority being here. Again, investing in yourself, investing in your family, investing in your dreams because you want a different outcome. And that outcome is what I'm going to share with you. I'm going to show you how to take back control, how things will change. And it's very much like this very wise guy said, right? Will Rogers, the problem in America isn't so much what people don't know, right? It's not what we don't know. It's what we think we know that just ain't so. And so that's what we're going to explore today. But before we do, let's talk about who else knows about this super simple, changing one thing concept. You know, this concept that's been around for almost 200 years. The first guy, he has a rich dad, he has a poor dad. So he got to have information from both sides. And he wrote a book called Second Chance. And Robert Kiyosaki is a huge proponent of whole life that's specially engineered. Some of my peers have emails from him. Other peers have worked with the woman who helped him get some of his policies. So Robert's been practicing this and believes in this and writes about it in the book Second Chance. And then there's the big man, the guy who factually changed my life and set me on the course back in 2019 to be with you today. And that's Tony Robbins. Money Master the Game, section 5.2. Tony talks about this concept. And then there's the book that never leaves my side. It's always on my desk or laying somewhere in the office with me. But the book that changed my life that I mentioned, that my mentor gave me, I believe this book should be by every Bible, right? Becoming your own banker. And banker is a verb. It is not a noun. It is the act of banking. And so Nelson shows us not only the rules of the game, but he shows us the human conditions that we got to watch out for. I believe it's one of the greatest books ever written on finances because it shows you those two things. And then finally, you have my peers, my partners. You have Brent Kessler and Chris Naugle writing out, mapping out the millionaire mystery. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to map out this mystery for you. And by the end, each and every one of you will have a roadmap with how you too could be a millionaire, maybe a multimillionaire, or wherever you want to be on your wealth journey. And then Chris, because he understands that when you're a banker, you have to understand private money. And that means doing deals together. So he's also written a private money guide. So let's talk about this interesting concept, right? Do you guys remember another imagination exercise? Do you remember when you were learning how to ride a bike or teaching your kids how to ride a bike? When you're doing it, right, you do what? You press down the pedals and what happens? The bike goes forward. And when you turn the handlebars to the right, the bike goes to the right. When you turn the handlebars to the left, the bike does what? It goes to the left. And you fall down for the first time, you scrape your hands, you're like, you start crying maybe, you look at your hands, you're wondering why there's pebbles in your hands, and you're all skinned up. Do you stop? No, you do what? You get back on the bike and you start riding again. And eventually it becomes easier and easier and you go faster and faster. And no longer do you need mom and dad to push you. You can do it on your own. You're free. You've learned a skill. You've created a habit. And then a welder comes along. And this welder decides, hey, I'm going to weld the neck on the bike. So when you turn to the right, the bike goes left. When you turn to the left, the bike goes right. I cycle like at least 3 times a week. And I always say, I believe I could do it. But seeing the videos, I probably would fall down and hope you guys would hold your laughter until you knew I was okay. Make sure I fall without putting my hand out. So no fractures, just, a little bit of laughter, physical humor, falling down on the ground in front of you. It'd be really hard. And why would it be really hard? Because our brains, the pathways have become so ingrained. It's like we were skiing. We learned how to ride a regular bicycle down the hill over and over and over again. And that groove gets so deep. Those neural pathways become so ingrained that switching out of that path is really difficult. Well, with a backwards bicycle, imagine that your money was just like a backwards bicycle. Imagine that everything that you've been taught about money actually doesn't work the way you think it does. Just hold space for that possibility. Again, it's like coming to the movies. Suspend your disbelief until the end of the show. But imagine that's the case. Well, let me show you a couple things. So let's start by just talking about why more people aren't successful. And I always talk about that there's always 2 parts of math, right? There's always the math part of it, is the mathing, and then the mindset part of it. What are our rules? What are our beliefs? What are our values when it comes? And so on the math side of things, we have what are the wealth killers? Does anyone here not pay enough in taxes? Then we have inflation, right? Feeding a family. It's definitely more expensive than it was a few years ago. I can tell you with 2 boys, 11 and 22, market volatility. Market goes up, it comes down, it goes up. It's normal. It's been normal that way since the market's been around. And finally, interest. This is something that may shock you. I'm going to show you how you can get a 35% raise. So if that's going to be valuable, make sure that you stick around because I will show you how you can recapture some of that interest just changing the one thing. And then on the mindset side, you have following the status quo. I call this being the sheeple, just following what's going along. Hey, Sally, John, they're doing this. That must be a good idea. I'll do it too. It's kind of like our parents used to ask us, hey, if your friend Mike jumped off the bridge, would you? And I said, Mom, probably. But that's what's happening a lot of the times. And then fear. And there's only two fears: fear of rejection or fear of failure. You pick. Everything kind of boils down to one of those two buckets. So fear of maybe not having things work out, fear of not having control, and then life distractions. Many of you are going to watch today. You're going to leave, you're going to go back, and your kids are going to need you, your spouse is going to need you, your job's going to need you, your business, your employees. Life is going to keep going fast. And so sometimes if we really want things to change, we must pause and take back that ownership. And again, if you don't understand what we're talking about, you just don't get it yet. And then what we're taught. How many of you had a financial education, financial degrees? What were you taught about money? Were you taught how money really works, how it flows, how it changes hands, how it has to be in motion to make more money? No. Most of us just learn from our uncle or grandparents or maybe a friend, that, and it's what we hear around the cooler. We're not really taught much about money. And so look at that handsome guy, that handsome picture. So let's talk about some of the mysteries of money. What is the definition of money? What's your definition of money? Let's get some answers here. If I don't get one, I'll give it. My definition of money is nothing more than a means of exchange. There we go. Exchange of goods. Very good, Melissa. So is money for car, car for money? Money for home, home for money, money for food, food for money. Just a means of exchange. It's a way that we can get the things we want and we can exchange value, right? It's an exchange of value. Because it's really hard to carry around goats and chicken and beef and barley and everything else, wheat, or whatever people used to barter with. It makes it really difficult. And second, what company uses compound interest? Now, you might have said, if you're driving, your both hands might went, "Oh, call me, Jason. It is the banks." And I would say, almost. You almost got it. It's not the banks. There is no business that actually uses compound interest. Think about it. When you go deposit money in the bank, when you hand them a $100 bill and they write, say write Melissa's name on the bill, $100, they don't take Melissa's money and go back to the safety deposit box and put her money into a safe deposit box and it sits there until she comes back for it, do they? No, as soon as they deposit the money, it becomes a liability to the bank. It has to go in motion. It has to stay in motion like our bodies, right? If we don't move our bodies, what happens? We get stiff, we get old. We have to keep moving into different positions so our blood flow keeps going, our joints, our muscles, everything is good. It's the same with, you wouldn't eat fish from a stale pond. You want to eat it from some place where the water is flowing, where there's circulation. Same thing with our money. Money must stay in motion. And then here's a great one. Are your dollars worth more today or in the future? If you said today, you'd be right. And if you need some help with this, just think, if you had $1 20 years ago and you went to the grocery store to buy your favorite candy bar. Now, mine's a Snickers, so pop in or maybe a Mars bar now. But you had to buy your favorite candy bar. Back then, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you can buy at least 2 candy bars with that dollar. Could you not? And today, you couldn't even get half a candy bar for $1, right? You'd have to get this giant king size thing. It's like $3 or $4, and it's like twice the, twice the things that are not good for you, that are trying to kill you, sugar and all the other stuff. And our dollars are always going to be worth more today than they will be tomorrow. Taxes, are they going up or down in the future? Now, just so you know, I consulted my crystal ball before this, and I had it out, and I looked in there, and it said, Jason, we're a little fuzzy on this. It looks like they're going to go up, but if they don't go up, they're going to tax us on more things. So it seems like they didn't go up. That's going to be reality. And if you need any guidance on that, just go to usdebtclock.org. You'll see we're $36 trillion and climbing rapidly every day in debt. So if we go out in the future, our government is going to have more debt. And how are they going to get that money? From us, from the taxpayers. And finally, what do you know about your retirement account? This is a fun one. I wish I could see you guys. Florence, you're going to be my buddy on this one. So for all of you listening, Florence and I are going to become partners. She didn't know that coming in, but now she found out. She might be excited, maybe not, but we're going to be partners. And Florence, this is how our partnership's going to work. I'm going to walk you through 3 steps of our partnership. And at the end, I'm going to put out my hand, and either you're going to shake my hand or you're going to smack it down and say, "Get out of here, Jason. That's nonsense." Okay? You guys like this game? So here's how our business starts, Florence. We're 50-50 partners, 50-50. And I am the best partner ever. I have partnered with hundreds of thousands of people. I am awesome. All right, it's a little bit about me. I've been around for a long time, almost 250 years. And actually, well, in this partnership, I've only been around for a little more than 100 years. But let's say that in this partnership, you're going to put in all the capital. It's up to you. So we're going to go from that little seed that Florence first puts in, and we're going to grow to a great big harvest. But you're going to supply all the capital for our business. Is that fair? That's step one. And then on top of that, I get to make all the rules. I can tell you when you can use the capital, how much of the capital you can use, if there's a penalty for using your capital, and everything else to run the business. But I won't be very hands-on. I'm just going to make the rules, and then you just got to follow them. So you supply the capital, I make the rules, you follow them. Are we tracking so far? And then finally, when you build up that harvest, you take that little itty bitty seed and you build it to this great big harvest. Then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to say, hey, Florence, psst, great job. Double high five. Double high five. I'm going to need 34.5% or whatever number I come up with. I've had a good time in this 20 plus years that Florence has built this business for us. And now I'm going to come back in and I need my cut based on what I've been doing, which is not really paying attention in the last 20 plus years, not really doing much, not doing any of the work, but now I need my cut so I can live my life and do the things I need to do. How many of you would sign up for that? Florence says, no, 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 Jason, no. Why not, Florence? This is what most people are doing with their qualified plan. And they're going to say something like, hey, Jason, but I get a match. Well, that's great. I'll give you an extra loaf of bread, stick them both in the freezer. Can you eat them 20 years later? That's literally what's happening because you don't know a lot of the variables. And that's okay. It might have been a lot. Even that story is a lot in my mind. But this is just to show you if this made you a little bit uncomfortable, that's okay. It really is. It's okay. But now we're going to really talk about how the banks are making money on your money, how you can take back control, how you can map out your millionaire journey. And that is what we're going to jump into here in a moment. So what does this method look like? I just mentioned it, mapping out the millionaire mystery, mapping out the method. It's only 3 parts. I keep it super simple like my last name. 3 parts, that's it. Part 1 is going to be the machine. And I've already talked about whole life, so no one's left or run away yet, knowing that it's going to be specially engineered whole life, but I'm going to go into more specifics on the machine. And then we're going to talk about the marathon. Now, if any of you saw the pictures of me, you know, my Ironman outfit, I don't run marathons unless I've already swam 2.4 miles and cycled at least 112. You know, I don't even like running that much, but if I get to do it in a triathlon, I'm all in. I'm all in. When I ran my first marathon, I was actually slower than Oprah. True fact. And then we didn't run together though. I mean, we're pals and all. No, but and anyhow, so and then you have the millionaire mystery. And we're just changing one thing. I'm going to show you how one of our docs literally came to us, asked us for help. We looked at his situation and we said, okay, just do this. And this will get you out of debt this much faster. You recapture all this money and you'll have close to $1 million by doing nothing more, not working harder, not working any longer, by just changing that one thing. So let's dive into this together. What is this machine? You know, you got us all worked up, Jason. You got us all excited. We already said, like Florence said, no, no, no to the partnership with Uncle Sam. Great. I agree. And let's talk about the machine. What is this thing? What is this magical vehicle? Well, it's nothing more than a dividend-paying, specially engineered, cash-rich, whole life insurance policy from a dividend-paying, mutually owned company. I added a whole bunch of extra words, but that is it. It is that simple. And all of these companies that we work with, that we partner with, have all been profitable well over 100 years. And then, as importantly, what is it not? Because 9 out of 10 policies that are being sold in the United States, I heard this today on another podcast I was listening to, are actually what we're not talking about. So make sure you dialing in. We are not talking, not N-O-T, not talking about IULs, VULs, ULs, or term insurance. Now, they all might have their place, but not in our banking conversation because to put it simply, do you want to be in control of the scenario or do you want someone else to be in the control, right? Do you want to assume the risk or do you want to transfer the risk? My guess is you want someone else to take on the risk. And that is why we're talking about dividend paying whole life from a mutually owned company. So that is your machine. So now we're going to get interactive. If you're not driving, grab your pen and paper, your crayon, whatever you prefer, to your marker, whatever it is that you want to write with, and draw a little T. In the top left, you're going to write bank, and the top right, you're going to write policy. And underneath both, you're going to write the word liquid or liquidity. And by the way, quick disclaimer, don't believe anything I'm telling you today. None of it. Go do your own thinking. I mentor, I guide, I strategize, but you're the thinker. I created this by thinking and going out and digging into this stuff. Write down whatever number you're getting. If it's a conventional bank and you're not getting a high yield, then probably write down somewhere 0.07% or less. Now on the policy side, we're going to write down 3.25%. That is G1. What's G1 mean, Jason? Guarantee number one. It's guaranteed. Can't ever be worse than that. It's not going to go up. It's not going to go down. It's going to be a flat 3.25% gain for the rest of your life, uninterrupted and compounding. Now under bank, that great 4.24% interest that Shane's getting, or 4% that Mark, or the 3.65% that Melissa's getting, is all taxable, right? It's all capital gains. It's all taxable income. Under the policy, it's tax-free. Tax-free growth, tax-free loans, tax-free distribution. So 3 tax-frees. The actual word is tax advantaged. Under bank, you have unstable. Well, Jason, what do you mean by unstable? Seems pretty stable. Isn't it backed by the FDIC? Well, that's a great question. Let's look. Let's go back to the beginning of 2023. You had the Silicon Valley Bank. That was only a $204 billion failure. And then within a month, you had the Signature Bank, which is a $100+ billion failure, and they were bailed out. How's that possible? How's it possible that something that big, a bank that's that big, fails? Or you go back to 2008, 2009, the great housing recession, 364 banks. You know how many mutually owned companies failed? Goose egg, 0. Well, why is that? Well, banks practice what's called fractional lending. That means when we deposit 10 grand into a bank, they only keep 1,000. They can lend out 90%. And through a series of loans, they turn that $10,000 into $100,000. Because every time that money comes back, they lend it out again. They can always lend out 90%, meaning that they're only keeping a fraction in case someone needs the money. If you've ever walked into the bank with a large cashier's check and tried to cash it that day, most likely, happened to a friend of mine, they don't have the money. They're going to tell you to come back in a few days because the money is out in motion, making money. Nothing wrong with that. It's just why it's not the most stable way, and it causes inflation, actually. Under policy, you have stable. Well, Jason, how do you define stable? Simple. Stable means that it's been profitable every year they've been in business, well over 100 years. For this example, it's since the year 1877. So the last 148 years profitable. Well, how can they do that? Well, one, they practice a different economy. It's called Austrian economics. So if you have $1 into your machine and you take a loan, you're borrowing against that dollar. You're not creating new dollars. You're leveraging the money that you've deposited into your system. Does that make sense? And the other thing is they're only betting on one variable. They're betting on when I pass away, when Shane passes away, when Mark passes away, when one of the mutual owners passes away. And all they're betting on is how long will we pay our premium deposits? Because it's a whole life contract. And they have a whole team that can dial in when we're going to pass away. So there's very, very little risk. And this is why they are the banks. And then we have, on the bank side, we have unprotected. So imagine with your business, it's doing really well. It's taking off. All kinds of money's coming in. And then something happens. Say you're a real estate person. You have a rental property. Someone gets hurt and they sue you. A good attorney can get at the money in a regular bank account through liens and judgment. It's a reality. The money is public. It's public knowledge, so it can be accessed. But on the policy side, it's private. It's protected. It's protected against liens and judgment. If you live in a great country like I do in Florida, it's fully protected. But no matter where you're at in the country, whatever state you're in, it's more protected than it is in a bank. So far, the left side or the right side of this policy, on the right side, we have guaranteed tax-free growth away from Uncle Sam that's protected from the attorneys, that is accessible in a stable environment. And then on the bank side, you use the money, you drain it back to zero. There is no death benefit. But on the policy side, guess what? You get a tax-free death benefit for those you love or the charities that you care about. Even if you don't have kids, this can be super valuable because there's got to be something you care about. And no matter what, if you use the system for banking, which is always going to be your bigger need, you're still going to have money that's going to be left over that's tax-free for something else. And so now if everyone with a high yield, you're on the board of directors for your bank and they're asking you, hey, Shane, Melissa, Mark, which side of the chart, the left side or the right side, do we, the bank, keep our money that has to be stable, guaranteed, and liquid? Those three things, they're tier one capital: stable, guaranteed, and liquid. Which side of the chart, the left side or the right side? Pretty obvious, right? It's going to be the right side in the policy. Again, do your thinking. Banks have quadrupled the amount of whole life insurance they have purchased since 2012. 4x'd. They own over $225 billion of this stuff, more than anybody else. So isn't that telling us and giving us kind of the guidance? Remember, success leaves clues. Tony Robbins taught me that. So which side of the chart do we want to leave our money on? The right side or left side? Even if our savings, the right. And now here's a fun game. I like how interactive Melissa is. So Melissa, you're in the market for a new car. And whether, Melissa, you want a car that's 25 grand or $250,000, the math works the same. Just add a zero. Add 2 zeros if you want. But Melissa, you've been coming to my bank. I'm really grateful for that. I really appreciate you coming to my bank, the Bank of Sipple. And I've been paying you a consistent 4% for years now, 4% on the money you leave in my bank. And you've been a great saver. I've been watching you make your deposits on a monthly basis. You're paying yourself the first law of wealth, 20% of what you're making, you're stacking your money, and you've got your eye on this beautiful new car. What color is your car, Melissa? And now it's got a leather interior. What kind of interior? How's it smell? What's it look like? So imagine your car while Melissa's imagining her car. Now she comes to my bank and she says, Jason, I'm going to need my cash. I got my car, man. I'm like, yes, I'm so pumped for you. That is awesome. I can't wait. Will you take me on a ride? I want to see this car. I see you working all this time. But I'm like, you know what? Hold up a moment. I just had an idea. I've got a deal for you. Melissa, here's the deal. And you got to tell me if I'm being an honest banker or not, okay? You're going to come into my bank and instead of taking your $25,000 out and interrupting the compounding, you're going to leave it there. We're going to let it keep growing. We're just going to let that keep growing at 4%. And I'm going to give you a loan at 6%. At 6%. And at the end of the 5 years, right? 60 months, 5 years, you're going to make money borrowing at 6 and growing at 4. Am I telling you the truth? A lot of people are going to say no because 4 minus 6 is -2. And this is why I want you just to see, you have to look at what the money is actually doing, not the percentages. How is it being calculated? So Melissa, your car, if you borrowed from my bank, you would have made payments of $483.32 for a future value. Just grab a future value calculator, $28,999. But on the other side, your future value is $30,500 and change. So I don't know about the rest of the country. I know you guys are from all over, but in Florida, 30,000 is still more than 28,000 and change. So Melissa, you have in fact made money on this deal, growing at 4, borrowing at 6. So congratulations, you got your white car and you made another $1,526. That is pretty exciting. So let's talk about this banking system. Now that I've established myself as Jason, the honest banker, I'm here to serve all of you. So bring me your money. deposit $100,000 into my bank. I will pay you all 4%. Does everyone like that deal? It's not bad, right? Now, I already told you earlier in the banking industry, when you make a deposit with me, I have to do something with money because now I have to pay you 4%. So that means it's a liability to me, right? Not an asset, it's a liability. So I'm going to put your money in motion. And first, I'm going to give the money to a new family in the neighborhood, found this beautiful blue house, and they're moving in, and I'm just going to charge them 7%, right? I'm paying 4 and I'm charging 7. Now that they moved into this nice new neighborhood, they can't keep driving that beater. So now they need what? They need a new car, a new blue BMW. The money goes out for the car, and guess where it has to come back to? It cycles back right to the bank. And if you pay attention to this motion, this is the motion that we're going to teach you with your own system. Okay, just putting that out there. And now you moved into this home, and you're like, I really don't like this kitchen, or we need another room. Our mother, my mother-in-laws can come live with us, and you have to put on an addition. So then you take out a home remodel loan. And every time the bank's charging you a little bit more. Why? Because there's a little bit more risk to the bank. Not much, but a little bit more each time. And now you're in the new home, you've got your new room, you got your mother-in-law moved in, you got the new car, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you didn't consider when you moved into the home, and you need it. So now you take on a bunch of debt on a credit card, and then you get the debt consolidation in the mail, and you consolidate it, and now you're paying 12% on that debt versus 25 or 28% that you were paying. And every time the money left the bank and it came back where? To the bank. And so this is all about how does the bank make a spread? So let's look at how much you made 4%, Melissa and everyone else. Let's look at what the bank made. 7 minus 4 is 3%. 8 minus 4 is 4. 9 minus 4 is 5. And 12 minus 4 is 8. So whoever's really good at quick math, pop the percentage in the chat. What percentage is that? Why, it's 20%. And is 20% 16% more than 4%? Or is it 5 times as much? Or 500% more, right? 500%. So if you guys go to, this is shocking. This is almost as shocking as only 5 out of 100 people. Banks will make annually between 4 to 1,300% on every dollar that you deposit in their system, every dollar you leave there. The banks are moving your money, whether they're paying you or not. What a great business. That's just nuts. How many of you would like to make that kind of money on your money? And we just showed you how by keeping the money in motion. Okay, now let's look at, now I've had well over 3,000 calls at this point, and I can tell you that we have a little problem with our automobiles. Most Americans, they're spending a little bit more than 20%, but this has been the patterns of spending for the last 30 to 40 years. On the housing, 30% or 30 cents of every dollar, everything else, 40 cents, and then the savings, 10%. Now, savings actually last month in America was less than 5% again, which it has been for every month in 2025. And it has been under 10% since 1985. So we're being super generous saying the Americans are doing the first law of wealth and paying themselves 10%. Now let's look at how we're going to get a 35% raise. So for every automobile we buy, we're paying 5 cents of interest, So we're going to remove that interest because we're going to show you later how to take back control of this. Just watch for the math. The housing, now, if you bought a house in the last 7 years, don't go look at the mortgage. Just don't do it. You're 60 to 70 to 80% of that is going towards interest. So 25 cents of 30 cents. And then next, everything else in there, 5 cents. So we have just moved 35 cents over in addition to the 10 cents. That's 45 cents of every dollar you're now saving. Now you're above to where the 1% have been saving since 1910, which is 38% of their money on average. And by doing that, by changing the environment, the interest rate, the volume of interest that you're paying to other families that might be leaving your family right now and bringing that interest back home and then financing everything yourself in the future, you've just given yourself a raise by changing your environment, and you're never going to give that up again. And so now I also promised you, let's look at a different way to finance vehicles. I know how all of you have bought in your vehicles. You've either paid cash, right? You financed them, or you leased them, rented them, or maybe, I don't think anyone here stole the car. Maybe you stole a car at some point, gave it back, I hope. But this is going to be a different way of financing them. So this way is going to show you how you can actually get the majority of the money back that you paid for the vehicle while keeping the vehicle and protecting your family. But we're not going to talk about a few things. We're not going to talk about your age. We're going to talk about these as premium deposits, not premiums, because it's into your system. I said the age doesn't matter, whether you're 21, 41, 51, 61, or even 71. As long as you're healthy, the age doesn't really matter. And then we have the death benefit, the cherry on top. We're not going to talk about that either. So in this scenario, we're going to have Chris, you're going to be buying this new vehicle. So Chris, you're going to make a deposit into your system, into your banking system of $10,000 a year, right? We're going to assume you're making 100 grand, you're saving 10%. Where do you need to store the money? We showed you in the bank, in a policy, not the bank, in your banking system. So now you put in 30,000, you take a $25,000 loan. And just like the honest banker situation before, you're going to pay yourself back instead of $483 a month, you're going to round up to $500 a month or $6,000 a year. So now you've put $70,000 in the first 7 years into your premium deposits. You have paid your vehicle back, your interest rate back at $500 a month or $6,000 a year for 5 years, and you've taken that loan. So the difference, 100 minus 25, 75,000. But look at your cash value. You have $67,881 available in your account still. So you have 91 cents of every dollar back into your account and the vehicle. Have any of you ever bought a car and had that much of your capital back, or any of your capital back and the vehicle? Unless you sold the vehicle and you no longer have it. I don't think you have. I believe this is already a superior way. But now we're going to get crazy. We're going to do something that I would never, ever recommend. Chris, you're going to stop paying premium deposits. You're going to stop putting money into that account. I don't know why you would do that, but after year 7, you're going to be like, I'm done. I'm not putting anything else into this. You're going to buy another car, though, because now your family has gunked this thing up, muddy shoes, French fries, whatever. The fingerprints, the car's a mess. Does not smell like a new car anymore. Like it was Melissa's white car. It's a mess. So now you're going to buy another car. You're still going to be an honest banker, pay yourself back. At the end of that new 5 years, 30 grand paid back to yourself, 25,000 for the loan. But look, your money's grown by $23,592. You've actually made money on the second car, and it's going to get better for every single additional vehicle you purchase. So there's only 3 rules you have to follow when you use this system. And the first rule is kind of like Warren Buffett's rule. You have to pay yourself first as if your life depended on it. I almost think rule number 2 and rule number 3 has to be the same as rule number 1. It's like pay yourself first, at least 10%, then pay yourself first, another 10%, then pay yourself first, another 10%, and live off of 70%. But nope, number 2 is pay yourself with interest. So if you've taken a loan out, you want to make sure you're paying yourself back at whatever the market rate is. And you want to recycle and recapture your money, meaning that you're going to keep replenishing your system, adding more premium deposits to your system because it's your banking system, and you're going to keep that money moving until now you're making all the interest that the banks used to use. Remember I said this is an exercise of reason, logic, prophecy, and imagination? Well, logically, yes, Chris, I'm sure you're a handsome dude, but the bank was not giving you loans, or Melissa or AC or anybody else, because of our charming smile and our wit, are they? No, they're giving it to us because why? Because they make money. They make money and they want to make more money. So they're being nice and saying, hey, I'll give you this great deal and I'll give you this rebate and I'll give you this. Why? Because all they need to do is get us hook, line, and sinker. So we're paying them money. So wouldn't it logically make sense that if you controlled the system, change the one thing, that you would keep all that money in your family? And so now let's talk about debts. This is a actual person, an actual doctor, a chiro, who came up, I think it was a Minnesota event. Brent was on stage speaking and Chris Naugle was there supporting him. And after this presentation, this very presentation you're watching, the doc came up and said, hey guys, this is what my situation looks like. I have $478,774 in debt. It's going to take me 19 years or $5,777 a month to pay back all of this debt, to pay off my 2 mortgages, my boat, my Beamer, my account for Lowe's and Nordstrom's, Discover. And he asked the question that many of you ask me in the calls. Can you help? Jason, can you help? This one was, Chris, can you help? And Chris said, I don't know. It depends. How much are you saving, Doc? He said, oh, well, I'm not really. I have a pretty fun lifestyle, but I do. He's like, well, are you contributing anything to, a retirement account? And he's like, yeah, I put $25,000 a year into my retirement account. And Chris is like, would you be willing to maybe change one thing, change where that money's going? Not work any harder, not work any longer, but will you make that one change? He's like, well, if this works, yeah. So he did. And let's look at this. Let's look what happens. So now he's making, instead of going to his retirement account, look at the rate of interest. It's between 21 and 3%. And he now is going to just change one thing. He starts a policy, a specially engineered whole life policy, puts in a $25,000 deposit, and he has almost $15,000 of immediate cash value to take a loan. So he takes the loan, and what's he going to do with it? Go spend it, buy something new? No. He's going to start taking back control of the money. So he pays off Discover, he pays off Lowe's, he recaptures $448 a month immediately, year one. Now remember, I'm taking something that's pretty boring, mundane, that's happening on an annual basis, and dressing it up to make it super exciting, right? Year two, same thing. Makes a premium deposit, takes a max value cash loan. Look, it goes up in value. Makes the payments back to himself. So he's got $21,000 in year two. What's he going to do? Pay off Nordstrom, Wells Fargo, and the private loan. So we're 2 years in, and he's down to the last 4 items. He's already paid off 5. He's recaptured almost $2,000 a month. This is exactly what we did the first time we paid off the family of Ford, Hyundai, water filtration system, 9 debts, debt consolidation. Because by the way, I've made all the mistakes that you can make with money. Bad investment. I had $2,200 a month leaving me. And within the first 30 days of the first policy that we did, $2,200 a month flowing back to us. And that was unbelievable. So now we're going to stick with the doc here. Year 3, something cool happens. If you notice, $25,000 deposited, premium deposit. And now he has more than $25,000 that he can spend tax-free as a loan. And now that means he's reached his efficiency point. Is it really costing him anything at this point? Because he's putting in $1 and getting more than $1 he can use. He makes the payments back to himself of that $1,917 a month times 12. And now he pays off the BMW, the boat, right? So he's got the condo, he's keeping up with the Jones, the Beamer, the boat, the condo, pays down the condo a little, and we roll into year 4. Remember, so far, this doc's put in 75 grand. He's taken loans for 55,000. How much is left in his policy? How much cash value does he have left? Is it 20,000 or is it the full $75,000? And the answer is the full $75,000. It's all the cash value is still growing and earning uninterrupted compound interest, and most likely earn this stock a dividend. And year 4, same deposit, a little bit extra, pays down the condo, pays down the home, doesn't recapture any additional money. Year 5, same thing, same deposit, goes up again, takes the payments back to himself. Now he pays off the condo, pays down the house. And look, we're 5 years in. Do you remember how long it was going to take before? If he did it the normal way, what the normal, conventional, what most people are doing way, it would have taken him 19 years. And so now something cool happens in year 6 too. Think about this, the entrepreneurs in the group. When your business becomes really profitable, when it just starts printing money, like, without a doubt, every dollar you're putting in is giving you more than $1 back, you can't go wrong. The business is just, it's going and going and going like gangbusters. What do? You're going to want to do what? Expand, open another branch office, franchise. So in year 6, this doc couldn't put that whole 25,000 into his policy. So he puts 10 grand in and he gets the cash value of $13,000 there. He starts a second policy and he gets the cash value of a little over $14,000, just like the first time. So now he's got the 2 policy cash value plus the payments back to himself for $82,000, and the house is paid off. 6 years. In 6 years, this doc has taken back control of all of his debt, recaptured $5,777 back to himself, and we didn't even talk about the death benefit. And so as you're anyone who wants to do the same thing as going through the process, we've built some really incredible tools. And the tools, the Debt Blaster, we have a vault that's coming as well, that's been put out there in the world. And I'll probably add that slide in here. But how valuable would it be as you're going through to see if you can get approved for your banking system, like put your name there, the Melissa banking system, or the, let me grab the Nolan banking system, the Ash banking system, Family Bank, whatever you want to call your banking system. And as you're going through the process, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, whether you're buying a vehicle, whether you're paying off all your debts and recapturing that interest, whether you're getting ready to go out and multiply your money in some kind of investment, we'll map it out for you and we'll show you exactly how long it'll take to do the thing you want to do, how much interest that you'll keep, how long it'll take to pay yourself back, and how big the cherry on top is, how your $1 is doing 3 things by changing one thing, not working any harder any longer, just putting your money into a specially engineered policy. How valuable would it be to have a map, right? To have a map before you even put the policy in force and fund it. You see, yes, this is weekly, and you can also get the replay. And so we're almost to the end, everyone. We're getting there, but stick with me a little longer. There's some cool stuff I'm still going to share. I'm going to show you how to reach that millionaire mystery. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. As my wife always says, my beautiful warrior goddess wife, Patty, always tells me, Jason, most people start at the ears. You can't do that. You got to start at the bottom and work your way up. You got to be willing to have elephant stew, elephant burgers, elephant steak, elephant salads. You got to get that thing on ice. You got to keep it fresh. And the man or the woman didn't fall to the top of the mountain, did they? They had to do what? Take one step at a time until they got to the top. No one starts at the top of the mountain. We all start at the bottom. We have to work our way up. So no matter where you are today, again, just say, hey, if I don't understand something, I don't understand it yet. There's plenty of time. But I promised that I would show you how we mapped out the millionaire mystery. You remember? And so now same doc, same scenario. Let's look at what happens if he just kept being an honest banker. He was paying $879 a month to the condo, $1,221 a month to the house. He recaptures $493,000 over the owed time frame that he was going to pay the banks, and buy the banks an additional home or 2. But it gets better. It gets even better than this. We forgot about the guaranteed interest rate. So now, he's probably even earning more than that 4%. It's probably somewhere between 5 to 6%. But at 4%, he has $750,000 back in his personal economy. That is incredible. That is something that we are currently doing ourselves. And now that you know this, shouldn't you be doing this? If you're not, it's a little harsh, but you'd be stealing from your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. If you know that there's something that you can do to take back control of your money by changing one thing and you don't do it. It's like Warren Buffett said, if rich people would only do what poor people do, or poor people would only do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. And so now, we're at the end and you guys have the map. You learn how the banks are making tons of money off your money, 400 to 1,300% annually on your money. And that's just nuts. And how many of you would like to make that kind of return on your money? We showed you how you can turn your debts into assets, a better way to finance the things you'll need in your life while keeping control of your money and protecting your family. That's the power of becoming your own banker. And do you know what the most common thing that all my clients say to me? Jason, I wish I would have known about this 20 years ago. And here's the crazy thing about that. Do you know who else knows about this? Rich people. And I guess they didn't let us into the circle. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. you can now do the same. There's only one of two things that are going to happen in your life. You're either going to live, or I'm sorry to tell you this, you're going to die. You're going to graduate. And my question is, are you better with or without this process? Now you know what the wealthy have been doing for hundreds of years, how they built their generational wealth, how they guaranteed an ongoing legacy. And thousands of people have been where you're at right now in this moment, and they've chosen to have a strategy call, to speak with me and meet them where they're at. And not one person I've worked with has been disappointed from making that decision. And so if you're worried about money, if you're stressed about money, if you're unhappy about anything financially in your life right now, I want you to, again, use your imagination. Go a year into the future, and let's say you didn't take any action, nothing. You saw this, thought, oh, that's neat, and you didn't do anything. You come back a year and you're in more debt, you're struggling more, maybe your health isn't as good. How would you feel in that moment? Now, I'm not saying you need to take action, but if you want a different path forward, you can't keep doing the same thing. So scan that QR code, book a call with me. And if you don't, I still love you. I'm still extremely grateful that you blessed me with your most valuable resource today, your time, your focus, your energy. So God bless you and be wealthy in all aspects of your life. Be blessed, and thanks for being here today. See you guys on the flip side.